Okay, to provide expert economic analysis of President Bola Tinubu's New Year message and the credibility and impact of the administration's claims around GDP growth, inflation trends, tax harmonization, investors' confidence, job creation, and fiscal reforms is Dr. Paul Alaje, an economic analyst. Very warm welcome.
Thank you so very much. Happy New Year to you and the viewers around the world. Thank you so much for having us.
The President's New Year message was quite loaded, and it says it marks a robust phase of economic growth and projecting a GDP growth of 4% and inflation that is going to be below 15%. From an economics perspective, how credible are these figures, or rather, are they achievable when you put together the economic indices that have been laid since 2025 to create that robust situation in 2026?
Yeah, so for the GDP growth rate, I believe strongly is possible because the 2026 year is a pre-election year. Pre-election year is marked with a lot of election activity. You are going to see a lot of economic activity in 2026. We have seen many state executives have moved to the ruling party at the center because the interest of most subnational, they know that the national government has major influence. As a matter of fact, what drives Nigerian pre-election year in terms of economics is politics. You are going to see this to second quarter of the main election year, which is 2027. You see more people moving, realigning from one party to another. This will happen at the legislative level. It will happen it's happening at executive level. You're going to see more of this up till perhaps June this year. While all of this will now mean those who feel they can win election, they will put money in different areas that will help them. So from study, we have seen clearly that this has a way of influencing the economic activity of Nigeria because it affects all wards. In fact, when you look at the media presentation by Mr. President, you see that there is a program government is organizing for different Nigerians, even at ward level, I think over 8,800 words. So this is government trying to push, perhaps fund directly into the ward level. So you're going to see improved GDP level. Now, why that may be so again is that we have rebased inflation. Before now, when you see overall GDP number divided by inflation, high inflation that we had before rebasing, we would have reduced what the GDP number would be. But now that we have rebased and we have an official number, which of course, because of rebasing effect, inflation number has reduced. This again, we now have impact on the real GDP. Is expected to remain at 4% or to be between 3.5 to 4.8% actually, based on the upper limit. Rebasement, based on the upper and the lower limit. For inflation, I don't expect any other thing because largely inflation has been rebased. And I've heard people question, oh, why would you say that the number that has been released by the Bureau of Statistics? I said, well, I don't work for Bureau of Statistics. But when a number is rebased, and we have a stronger year of 2009, we rebased to 2024, what you should expect is that the number of the inflation number will drop. Now, in economics, we call this base year effect, or, sorry, I beg your pardon, we call it rebasing effect. So this rebasing effect, we are going to have it up until April. Now, because the numbers are essentially low, what we now need to work on, government policy needs to work on so that we don't return back to high inflation numbers, is to ensure that supply side, which is the real way of bringing down, one of the major ways of bringing down inflation, we work on it. If that be the case, inflation will be around 14-15%. But if the supply side is still challenged, that is, we still have challenges around most of the things that people consume, prices are still going up from the rich that fly to the poor that take sachet water, as the case may be, then I can tell you that inflation number may go up. So it depends on how we're able to manage the economy. The president's expectation is about 15%, and I hope that we're going to work on the supply side so that this expectation will be a reality.
Okay, this reality, why has it not, 2025, 2026?
No, sorry. Okay.
I mean, you're talking of rebased economy now.
Yes.
Because of the electioneering activities beginning in 2026 to the first or second quarter, I mean, first quarter of 2027, there's going to be loads of money in circulation. Does it help the manufacturer? Does it really translate? Or some people ask, why does it not translate, that Nigerians feel the cost of living and financial pressure are still high?
First of all, the inflation number we have, the Secretary General already mentioned when the number was published, that the reduced inflation you are seeing, the 10% drop in inflation, is not the one that you go to the market and you see
10% drop.
10%, I'm talking of April or May 2025. Inflation dropped by 10% from 34 to 24%.
Yeah.
A number of persons were expecting prices to go down. Now, what happened was that we rebased the inflation numbers and we adjusted basket of commodity. That was why we had that drop. Ever since, we are now comparing the rebased inflation with the old inflation with relatively high parameter. Inflation number will continue to drop. Whether people will feel it or not is another conversation entirely. And this period in economies where you are comparing two base years together is usually posted as outlier.
But the conversation Nigerians want to hear out there,
yes,
based on the president's speech, New Year's speech, assurances, is that living conditions of the average Nigeria
is different.
Is going to improve.
So,
how? You are an economic expert.
Yes.
How is that going to be met? Those are the kind of
answers
the Nigerian want to hear.
So first of all, inflation number now and living condition are not going to be the same thing.
All right.
Because we have rebased the inflation number. In fact, if the numbers were to be going up and things are better off, I would have also said the same thing because of the base year effect. It's a concept. Now, here is it. With the spendings that will happen for politicians, councillors, chairmen, and all of those things, people that are around political activities, we have direct impact. That's the truth. However, some manufacturers may not have impact. Printers, we have. Those that are producing other things may not have.
Acrylic sheets and the rest.
So they may not. So it now depends on what parts. And this has been the pattern since we've been tracking the economy in real sense, 2003. So some we have, some we not have. At the end of the day, have we created much more, robust economic activities that is manufacturing driven? So if you are looking for what will actually help Nigeria come out of economic quagmire in the long run and also help us build a developed economy, is to be deliberate about our manufacturing sector. The Bureau of Statistics reported that the growth rate of manufacturing sector was only 1.5%. The expected for manufacturing sector for Nigeria, and in fact its contribution, it shouldn't be less than, manufacturing alone, I'm not talking of production, manufacturing alone should not be less than 33% for the next 20 to 30 years. That way, our focus will shift. However, what will drive us in the next 4 years, we are discussing 2026 now, by 2030, if we don't change some of the indicators, it will still be the same thing. You see the GDP number shoot up around 2030 because of political activity. So we need to change the orientation from politics-driven economy, because we call it in fact, in a larger balance, we call it economic rainmakers. Senators, honorables, local government chairmen, state honorables, governors, they will go back to their communities and they will start giving some economic support to the people. This economic support, market women will really infuse into their business. It will raise up, it will increase the economic activity. So you're going to see the GDP numbers goes up. Nothing is wrong with that. But the question is, how can we make it much more sustainable for growth, for economic prosperity that lasts among the people?
Absolutely. Now, one last question. The government also has highlighted foreign reserve figures, over $45 billion. Investors confident, with foreign direct investment flowing in the last quarter or so of last year, close to $1 billion as compared to previous years and the rest. Do you think these are key points to still drive the Nigerian economy, particularly from the manufacturing viewpoint that you've enunciated?
First of all, we must say that it is good and it is true that foreign reserve has increased to $45 billion. But among so many Nigerians, we need to we need to acknowledge the contribution of Dangote refineries. Before now, we would have imported. So Dangote refineries has helped reduce money would have spent. Now, government agreed that, when I say government, NNPCL subsidiary agreed that Dangote refinery is producing 50% of the PMS consumed. Dangote refinery says, no, we are producing more. But there's an agreement of 50%. Now, if only 50% accounts for major boost in our reserve, imagine if we have 2-3 local refineries and we have no reason to import anymore. We would have saved money, we would have spent. Again, we are seeing some inflows. The question is to where? Imagine the whole Nigeria is safe, and we can now invest in different parts of Nigeria, from Sokoto to Calabar, from Lagos to Maiduguri, and every part of Nigeria is relatively secure. You are going to see more improvement. What that tells us is, yes, we are seeing some trickles of foreign investment in Nigeria. We are also seeing that if we have local refinery, which we have always advocated even before subsidy removal was done. I remember I had an interview maybe with one of your colleagues, and I said that it's not to remove subsidies, to make sure we have functional local refineries.
Absolutely.
Once that is done, you can now remove subsidy. So here is the point. We will see more if we can enhance what gives us these results, support more local manufacturers, especially refineries, and those in non-oil sector producing clothes, producing school uniform. We're going to see even more. Nigerian economy has the capacity not just to lead Africa, but to lead the major South in the global hemisphere, to lead it and take the world, and take the black nation out of economic quagmire. But that will not come without sacrifices, which includes manufacturing, production, and also creating linkages between our school system and the market, creating linkages between our farms and the market. This is what will take us out. Having small economic growth of 2, 3, 1, 4, 5% will not be sustainable in the long run. What will be sustainable in the long run is to have manufacturing-driven economy that is not oil and is not agriculture. But the two of them are not bad, but we are saying that they will be energizer to manufacture. If you have good agriculture sector, and we have manufacturing that they feed directly, there will be no need for us to import rice. There will be no need for us to import quite a number of things. And we will now know that there is a place for those who are leaving secondary school, university, polytechnic, colleges of education to work directly, and therefore we have a robust economy.
Thank you so very much for the robust submission arising from...
Thank you, but I wish to warn that foreign reserve may drop because of pre-election year just in 30 seconds. If politicians go back to spending dollar as usual, my advice to President Bola Tinubu, yes, you've made gain. You've made gain with the reserve. One, because of refinery, because of some policy by CBN.
Yeah.
Do everything possible to say that primary spend, everything spent on election must be Naira. Save the soul of Naira by not allowing dollar to be spent. Then we have a great economy at the end of the day.
Great advice. I'm sure Mr. President and his advisors are listening very copiously to that. Robust submissions from a robust Christmas message by Mr. President. Dr. Paul Alaje, an economist, joined us on News Now.